Alright. So, we did robot. A fish? That's cool. You know, a fish actually wouldn't be terrible, to be honest with you. So this website's kind of funny. So it's got it. There's no search on the front page. Some genius didn't put a search. So you have to click on a model, and then a search appears in the upper right. So then you have to type fish. There's no. You can kind of look at these mini pictures and stuff. That's cool. Oh, look at that. That one's got a rig to it, but oh my god, it looks messy. This one's got a rig to it too. Looks messy. What? You ever see that movie Finding Nemo? Wow. So much sass. That's cool. It looks like a game model. 31,000 polygons. It doesn't seem so bad. Looks like it's got some sort of a rig in it or something. Ugh. That model looks messy. Not feeling the goldfish. How about a shark? Oh, cool. Aquatic animals 3D models. That's cool. Look at this guy. I love that. Let's grab this guy. He's super cute. I don't know. Let's bust this guy out. Looks like animated baby tortoise cartoon 3D model. Download that guy. Ooh, it's a 3D Studio Max file. That should be interesting. We gotta learn how to convert some models here. Let's see. Download URL. It comes in as a RAR file too. Ooh, you guys are gonna be learning all kinds of stuff today. So you're gonna need to open 3D Studio Max on your computer. 3D Studio Max 2019. Open that up. We're gonna do a little conversions today. So it comes in as a RAR file, .rar. All you need to do is just right click on it, 7-zip, extract here. And good news and bad news. Forget if Maya can take PSDs. I think it can. The texture is a Photoshop file. 15 megabytes. Oh my god. It can, but 15 megabytes, man. Good lord. Open that up in Photoshop. We're going to do all kinds of stuff today. Good Lord. It's probably massive. Image size. Oh. 30 inches by 30 inches almost. My God. All right, everybody with me here? Who's not? Let's go. Let's get it. Unzip the file. There's 2 files in there. The file we're downloading is animated baby tortoise cartoon 3D model. All right. There's a model file in there. You gotta extract it when you download it. It's a RAR file. CADNAV something or other RAR. Right click, 7-zip, extract here. There's a folder. Inside that folder are 2 files. One's a Photoshop file, one's a 3D Studio Max file. Just double click on the Photoshop file and it will open in Photoshop. This one we're going to save out as a JPEG, but my God, first we're going to decrease the size. Yeah. Yeah, image size, image size, change it to pixels instead of inches. And that's actually not that big, to be honest with you. We'll just make it, we can make it a 512 by 512. Image size, change it to pixels, make it a 512 by 512. Click OK, file save as a PNG. PNGs keep transparency. All this white and checkered stuff behind the image is transparency. Okay. We want to make sure we retain that transparency. Image size, change from inches to pixels. Height and width 512. Click Alright. File, save as PNG. Little drop down, save as type PNG. You put it in the same directory as that whatever file. So 512 would be good for like a mobile model. So this would be like good for like a mobile game. I mean this model looks kind of like a mobile model anyway, to be honest with you, so that kind of works. Alright, the 3D Studio aspect. File, open. Open the model in 3D Studio. Documents, downloads, somewhere, libraries. Gotta unzip the model, y'all. Mine's not. Oh my gosh, he's animated. That's cool. Alright, once you get this guy open in 3D Studio Max, we are going to file, export. Actually, Oh my gosh, look. There's a send to Maya. Send as send as new scene. See if that works. That didn't do anything. Okay. We'll try file send to Maya. Try that again, maybe? Nothing. Do I have to connect these or something? References, never done this before. Interaction mode.
Did you select the turtle first?
Okay. Send to Maya. Send as new scene. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. I think I might have to select like what version of Maya or something. I've never done it before. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. File, export, export, and do it as an FBX, and we will call this turtle. File, export, export. As an FBX, call it turtle. And let's see, you want to turn off animation, and in geometry just select smoothing groups and export it. Then in Maya file import, how did that bring in the bones? Interesting. Alright, so in 3D Studio Max with the file open, file, export, export, change the selected file of type as FBX. You're going to turn off animation. There's a drop down, switch off animation, little checkbox at the top. Under geometry, turn on smoothing groups. Then go ahead and export it. Then when you export it, open Maya, file, import that FBX file that you exported. Should look like this. Should look like a gray turtle. And if you remember what we did last time with the to get the file for the texture back on there, you want to load that PNG we exported from Photoshop. So that's going to be under Window, General Editors, File Path Editor. Remember how to use that File Path Editor? And it ain't doing nothing. So we need to go into the Hypershade and fix that. So Windows, Rendering Editors, Actually, not Hypershade. Yeah, Hypershade. Windows Rendering Editor's Hypershade in Maya. In the Hypershade, you'll see the gray material. It's missing on the like middle right. You'll see something that says color. It's got a gray swatch. There's a little white and black checkerboard image. If you click that, a little thingy will come up and you can see a bunch of things: bold, checkered, cloth, file. Click file, and then there should be a little folder on the right where it says image name. You can click that and you can navigate to where you saved out the PNG and load that PNG. And then if you hit 6 on your keyboard, little turtle image will show up. It's got some display issues. That's very fixable. That's just the renderer. Oh, you know what? Back in the Windows General, I'm sorry, Rendering Editor's Hypershade, when you load that texture, when you click on the material, it also loads in the transparency. I don't actually think this guy has any transparency. So you can just right click on the transparency and break connection. So like over on this screen, you can right click on transparency and break that connection, and the transparency won't show anymore on the turtle. Alright, who needs help? Anybody? Where are you at?
He's having trouble finding the PNG file he made earlier.
Just re-export it. Export it to the desktop. Shouldn't have any problems finding the desktop. Open Photoshop. Open the PNG, or open the Photoshop file in Photoshop. Re-export it as a PNG. Scale it down to 512 by 512. It's okay to ask each other for help, you guys. That's why we sit you next to each other. Asking for help is okay. If you click 4 on your keyboard and go into wireframe mode, you can see you can see the bones inside this guy already, or girl, I don't know. This thing's already rigged, man. What's that? Yeah, it was rigged from the start. We got lucky. Alright, everybody with me? Everybody with me? Hit 6 on your keyboard. See the texture? Doesn't have transparency issues. Fix the transparency. Cool. Alright, let's save this Maya file out. File, save scene as turtle. Save it as a Maya file.
It gave me a fatal error when I tried to save it.
Shouldn't.
Shouldn't, but it did.
What error?
It just said fatal error. And
Did
then it crashed.
Did you crash?
Yeah.
Well, open Maya again. Re-import it. Alright, so I would love to rig this thing from scratch, but the reality is it's already rigged. So instead, we're going to do some other fun stuff that you would do when you find yourself in this situation. Okay? Building on last time. So, let's do this. Let's go ahead and add some joints to this thing after the fact. So it's already rigged. I'll tell you what he doesn't have though, or she does not have eye joints. So we could go ahead and give some eye joints. And then that turtle shell does not have its own joint. So we could give the turtle shell its own joint as well. So why don't we add those 3 joints? Okay. Alright, so what we're going to do in the upper left, go down to rigging, and then we'll add some controls. And then we'll be done. Go to rigging in the upper left, change that to rigging, the drop down. Click on the rigging tab, and double click the joints tab. Or the joints icon here. Double click the joint icon under the rigging tab. Alright, when the joint options come up, you're going to see something that says variable bone radius settings. Go ahead and uncheck that and close the window. Alright, now let's go ahead and make a joint on the grid. Just click on the grid, click enter, and name that joint shell. And go ahead and move that joint up to the center of the shell. And one of the things that you can do is his hip joint, or whatever that is already centered. So you can tap W to move the joint you created. And as you're moving that joint you created around, if you hold X on your keyboard, it will snap to the other joints. Okay? If you tap if you tap 4 on your keyboard, you'll go into wireframe mode, okay? And you can see through the turtle. If you select the joint you just created on the grid, as you move that around, if you move it around from the center of the mover, if you hold V, it will snap to polygon vertices, it'll snap to joints. You can snap it to the center of that hip joint, and then you can just move it up a little bit into the center of the shell, and that's probably a pretty good location for it. Just move it to the, snap it to the hip, and then just move it up a little bit to the center of the shell. And we're probably good. All right. Then duplicate that joint twice and move it in. Rename that RI and LI and move it into the center of the eyes. There is a center vertex on his eyes. You can V snap as you're moving to the center vertex of that eye, and then you can like just move it into the center a little bit. Actually, just do one eye, not two. What we'll do is we'll mirror the location of the other eye over. So to duplicate, edit, duplicate the shell joint. Then tap W to move, and you can V snap that to the center of one eye, and then you just kind of want to move it over to the center of the eye. And if you tap spacebar on your keyboard, you can see it in the different views. And like a top view would be pretty good for moving the joint over into the center of the eye. So I'd V snap it to the center point of the eye, and then go into my top view, tap 4 on your keyboard to go into wireframe, and then just move it on over to the center of the eye. All right. Okay, so a couple things. First thing, what we want to do is parent the new shell joint to the hip. Very simple. Select the shell joint, shift select the hip, tap P. Same thing for the eye, but that's going to go to the head joint. Select the eye joint, shift select the head joint, tap P. Make sure you name that eye joint something along the lines of, mine's on the left side, so I'll type it L-I for left eye. Alright. Now, since this model is centered on the grid, what we can do is mirror that eye joint over to the other side. Very simple to do that. Select the eye joint, and you're going to go up to, make sure your drop down is rigging on the left, and you can go to skeleton, and the option box for mirror joints. Skeleton and the option box for mirror joints. So again, all we've done is we've created a shell joint, moved it to the center of the shell, parented it in, done the same thing for the eye, parented it in. Select the eye joint. Make sure your rigging tab is you're in the rigging drop down here in the upper left. Skeleton, option box for mirror joints. Now this is going to be very easy to do. This is a cool thing. It helps you mirror joints. It says search for and replace with. Mine is L. I'm going to search for capital L, replace with capital R. And so when it creates the next joint, it's going to change the name from LI to RI. Okay? If you click apply, you can see it mirror. But what happens when I mirror it? Anybody? It mirrors along the wrong axes. So you can just middle click in your view to activate the view and Control Z to undo it. Then you can switch the axes and hit apply to try again. I switched it to YZ, then hit apply, and it mirrored along the correct axes. So sometimes when you do this or other stuff like this in Maya, you have to kind of try a couple times in a couple different options in order to get it to do what you want it to do, because Maya is not a mind reader. When you're done out of that, just hit close. And now we have some perfectly mirrored eye joints. So the reason why we use mirror is because it will literally do all the hard work for us. Trying to like make sure that both eye joints are perfectly mirrored down to the decimal by hand is like
Can't you just change around the numbers and like make them opposite?
okay. So now comes the fun part. We've parented the new joints into the turtle, but when we move them, what happens? They don't do anything. We have to attach them to the turtle. So I'm going to shift select all my new joints here and the and the turtle mesh. And there's an option under skin called skin edit influences, and the option box for add influence. Skin edit influences and the option box for add influence. So you want to shift select all the joints and then shift select the turtle. So all the joints, all the new joints, sorry. So the two eyes in the shell joint, and then shift select the turtle. Then go to skin, edit influences, and the option box for add influence. Now, I'm not sure this is going to work with multiple joints selected, but let's give it a go. Let's see how smart Maya is. There's a checkbox in there called lock weights. Make sure that is selected. Then go ahead and hit apply. Now to test this, what I'm going to do is select this turtle, double click my paint skin weights tool, And I'm going to see if my new joints are in there. Paint skin weights tool, remember it last time? You select your turtle. Double click the paint skin weights tool. On the rigging tab, it looks like a checkered box with a little paintbrush. You can see all the bones in there. They're named kind of funny because they came over from 3D Studio Max. When you scroll all the way down, what do you see? I'll tell you what I see. I see 3 new joints that have been added to the skin. I see a LI, a RI, and a shell. Do you guys have the same? Alright, that's good news. What that means is Maya has allowed us to add all 3 of those new joints to the skin. Yes? Say again?
Ours didn't work.
Okay, I'll run over that again. Alright, all you're going to do is you're going to shift select the eyes and the shell joint, the new ones. You are going to shift select now the turtle, so you have 3 joints and a turtle selected. Then you're going to go to skin, edit influences, and the option box for add influence. Okay. There's a checkbox. You can leave all the settings the same. The little checkbox in there called lock weights. Go ahead and just click add. When you click add, close out of that box, select the turtle, double click the paint skin weights tool, scroll all the way down, you should see your 3 new joints. There's an orange lock for all 3 of the joints to the left. You can uncheck those locks, turn them gray like the others. The reason those joints are locked is because what that means is that if we didn't lock those joints, Maya would like blend in the weighting for the new joints and take away from the weighting that had already existed. Okay, so right now those joints don't have any weights associated to them, and the old joints kept all the weights associated to them. Don't know if that makes sense, but I tried to explain it the best I could. Alright, click on the shell joint. Actually, let's close out of our paint skin weights tool. And what we're going to do is we are going to select and flood the shell to the shell joint. Do you guys remember how to do that? Right click and hold, select a vertex on the shell, hold shift, and then click the period button a bunch of times. And we got a problem. What's our problem?
It goes past the shell.
It selects the head too, man. Okay, so that's not like that big of a deal. It's still a problem, but it's not that big of a deal. Let's try something else. Okay.
I got it all evenly on the shell.
How did you do that?
Very top vertex.
What about it?
You click on that and then you hit the plus a couple times, and then it spreads evenly across the shell.
Yeah, but what about the belly? Maybe click the top vertex and then the belly vertex and then do it. It still gets that head a little bit. Yeah, what I would do is just, you can go to show and turn off joints. show and turn off joints. And then what I would do is just do that vertex trick, select as much of the shell as you can. It's going to select a little bit of the neck. And then what you can do is if you hold control, you can deselect vertices using control. And I would just go through and just deselect the vertices using control. I mean, there's probably just going to be a few. If you hold control, it will deselect them. Just want to make sure that you're not pulling anything from the neck. And what you can do is, once you have the vertices selected, you can test it by pulling the shell up like this. Just make sure that the neck stays put. The neck's a little tricky. If you tap 4 on your keyboard, you can go into wireframe mode. There's 2 vertices that keep the, well, it looks like more than that actually. We may be in a little bit of trouble here. It looks like the neck's almost connected to the shell.
How do you get into that edit joints part?
The what?
The edit joints part?
How do you hide the joints?
Yeah.
Go to show joints. Show joints. I don't know if that shell's going to be able to move entirely on its own without that neck.
Yeah. Because it looks like it's inside the neck.
Permanently attached to the neck, huh? Ay, ay, ay. Well, we might need a plan B here. Alright, so as a plan B, just keep the neck connected to the shell like this. Everybody look up here. That neck, you're not going to be able to get the whole... Actually, yeah, the problem is that the vertices are connected to the neck vertices are connected to the shell. There's no way to, now that it's rigged, like we're not going to be able to split it. So what we'll do is just kind of a mixture here. So what you want to do is just select as much of the shell as you can, move it up a little bit so you can see that you've pulled the neck like this. Okay. Then Control Z, and let's flood those vertices to the shell joint. So double click your Paint Skin Weights tool, scroll all the way to shell, then click flood. Shell should turn white. Make sure when you flood, you can check to see if you flood by clicking F5 on your keyboard. So you're in shaded mode before you go into your Paint Skin Weights tool. And what we're going to do is now close out of your Paint Skin Weights tool, and you can bring back your joints by turning on joints, show joints, and I want you to move the shell joint up like this. Move the shell joint up. All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to connect the vertices from the legs so that they look like what's going on with the neck. Okay? So what you're going to do is select the four corners, right-click vertex, select the four corners of the legs, and you're going to flood those to the shell joint. So if we can't beat it, we're just going to join it. Do the same thing for the tail. Might as well. If we can't beat that model, we're going to make it work with whatever we're given. What's that, Danny?
I thought you said we're gonna make it work if we can't.
Nah, man.
Just the four corners, you said?
Yeah, just the four corners. We'll do the legs first and then we'll figure out the tail after. So if you look up here, you can see there's four corners of each leg. Shift select those vertices, flood those to the shell. Should look like this. Oh my god.
What are you doing?
What's a start, anyway?
Nothing just sounds alive anymore.
Oh my god.
Better hope this wasn't an endangered species.
Right?
Nothing.
Alright, so now figure out the tail. Gotta do the same thing with the tail. There's like an opening on the tail of four kind of vertices. I'd start there. Vertex. You can get those joints out of the way by going to show joints. I click those four. It looks like a shark mouth. Click those four vertices there and flood those to the shell. See how that goes. Looks about the same. What the? And this thing is weird. Man, this thing just has the most bizarre problems. Looks like when I did that, one side of the tail went up. I'm just like, what? And yeah, sometimes you're gonna run into these problems. You just have to even it out. As you can see, like there's some weird vertice that hung back.
I think you selected the vertices before, right?
Man, I didn't, man. Look. Oh, it's just.
Oh, I see it.
See, they didn't attach these two vertices. That's alright, whatever. Deal with it. It's just, you know, sometimes you're gonna, modelers, they're not perfect, you know, so just, it just, ugh. It'll end up looking like this. Yeah, equal amounts of crap, exactly. It's like the best of the worst case scenario, I guess.
You don't want to make a clean spot.
Oh my gosh. Yep. That those front vertices too. Those can probably go up. There's a front 4. Actually, we'll leave those as is. So everybody got the tail looking like this.
Do we flood them?
Don't flood those. What we're going to do is for the next set of vertices down, we're going to do 50% weighting.
I meant for the ones we just did.
Yeah, flood those. Should look like this. So I want to show you guys how to do 50% weighting. We're going to do a blend. I'll start with the neck. So the next row of vertices around the neck, grab those. Should look like this. The ones that are down there, the whole loop. Grab the whole loop. And in your paint skin weights tool, you can change the value to 0.5. That's going to be 50%. Now you can flood 50% of the weights to the shell, and it'll go halfway. 50% of the weights to the shell, and it'll go halfway. And then the next loop down the neck, you can change it to the value to 0.25, and you can push those up a little bit further. So I'll grab that next loop of joints down, or vertices. Remember, click 5 on your keyboard to go into wireframe mode to help you select the vertices. So I'm going to select the next. So I did the first bit of vertices there, changed the value in my paint skin weights tool to 0.5 and clicked flood, and they went halfway. Now I selected the next bit of vertices down from the neck, and I'll change that to 0.25, which is half of that, and click flood, and that looks awful. Yeah, so don't do that. 0.15 is a little bit better. Sometimes you have to play with the values to kind of get it to look okay. 0.5, 0.25, 0.15. And you want to blend those so that the neck blends evenly as it moves away from the shell. And then what you want to do is once you do the neck, you want to go through and blend all the rest of the legs just like we did the neck. So that the next set of vertices down, probably want to do 0.5 with those. Alright, so let's check out the legs here. I'm just going to grab the next loop of vertices down and blend those 50%. Exciting stuff here, you guys. And I can just do all legs at the same time because it's the same for each. Double click my paint skin weights tool, and I'll set my value to 0.5 blood, and that doesn't go halfway, so let's try 0.75. That's a little bit better. Looks like 0.75 does it a little bit better. We just want to make sure that if somebody grabs this shell and stretches this thing away from the turtle, it's going to blend properly. And you could probably do the next set of vertices down as like 0.5 or 0.25, something like that. Whatever looks good. Just to make sure it sufficiently blends. So I'm really glad that we chose this turtle to do, because it has the, and that the shell was messed up like that, because it allows us to learn how to blend. Blending is very important for organic creatures like this. When you have to do organic parts. Last time we did the robot, and the robot was like, you know, pretty easy because it's non-organic, right? It was just like flood part, flood part, flood part. This guy is got a, you know, the organic bits of the leg here. So we really have to, you know, do some multi-blending here in order to get it to do what it's supposed to do. Does anybody need any help? I'm kind of ripping through this. I think you guys are getting it for the most part. What's that? So on the neck, these middle verts here, I think those were 50, and the next row down was 1.5, or I'm sorry, 0.15. And then for the legs, I did, the top ones I did 0.75, and then for the middle ones, I think I did 0.15 again, or 0.25. You just have to play with it. You'll try a value. It doesn't work, hit Control Z. Try another value. You just keep trying values until it looks right. You know, it's never going to be perfect, but now you want to do the same thing with the tail. It already looks kind of goofy, so you just start with one set of vertices. Ugh. That tail's gonna be messy. Yep. Yeah, the tail was messy.
Would this have been easier if we had like subdivided it first?
No, I mean, you know, like I said, this is a mobile model. So it's kind of like,
You don't want it to be that high powered?
yeah, it's a mobile model, you know. The tail was tricky. The tail, I had to do like, I grabbed all those vertices and I started small and I kind of then deselected vertices and kind of moved up as I went. I think my values were like, I started with 1.5 and then I like tried one at 0.5 and then I did another one at like 0.85 or something. But basically you want it to where you move up that shell and it stretches the legs.
Can you imagine this falling going through it doing the body?
Which vertex did you choose for the tail?
Which vertexes did I choose for the tail? I will display those vertices. So if you look at the bottom of the tail here, I've got just the point, one set of rings, two set of rings, and three set of rings that hang back. The rest goes up. Does that help you?
Yeah, first three rings stay down and the rest go up.
Yes, sir. The rest go up. Looks like the majority of the back went up into the shell, and there's only like a couple parts that stayed back here. I'll zoom in on it here so you can see it. Alright guys, let's try and wrap up in the next 5 minutes. Yeah, let's wrap up. I flooded the tail. Yeah, multiple times. All right, guys, couple more minutes and we're going to move on here. Try and wrap up. Help each other if you need.
Will you post the video on the website? I hope whenever we're done here, we do the state of it. We got like a year to it. Last time we did it. Oh, not a month ago. It was in like August. It was when we were.
All right, does anybody need any help? You want some? You need some help, man?
No.
Okay. Yeah, you guys all look good. You guys all look good. All right, let's move on to the eyes here. There's good and there's good enough. The eyes should be pretty simple. We don't want the whole eye to move. I would keep so you're only going to move the vertices like 1, 2, 3 rings in. Keep the actual vertices that attach the eye to the face locked into the face. So what you'll do is you just click that top vertice and click a couple times until it selects like just the majority of the eye but not the back ring. Then flood that to the right joint.
Can you put it up on screen?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, so let me show you here. So yeah, so I'm on this left side of the eye here. I'm going to select a vertex and just tap 1, 2, 3 by holding shift and tapping period. And I'm going to miss that whole back ring of the eye. I'm just going to do these first 3 rings here, including the top, and flood that. Don't flood the part where the eye ring connects to the face. Leave that. So when we rotate the eye, it's just going to rotate it like an eye. Make sure you got the right joint selected. You don't want to flood the left eye to the right eye joint. It'll highlight blue when you select it in the Paint Skin Weights tool. Make sure your value's set to 1 when you flood, not on a part that you were on before, like 50% or something. And when you flood it, it'll look like this. It'll be the majority of the eye will be white, and you'll see the back will blend out, which is cool. Super cool, man.
I stopped doing number 3. Oh, never mind. Forget it.
This was really cool. This little demo worked out good for us because of all the organic and blending and stuff. We all know how to put joints in characters now. We just need, you know, you can never get too good at blending. I mean, you can always just get better and better and better. And there's other little techniques where we can go in and like hand paint. There's something called a component editor where we can go in and do even more higher precision blending. The paint skin weights tool is like a good way to get like an overview of how to do it. Now one trick, so when you do that eye, you can rotate it around and test it. Looks kind of cool. Looks like the eye's attached. And you can do the exact same thing with the other side of the eye. Super easy. It's probably the fastest way to do it. You could mirror the weights, but to be honest with you, it takes 2 seconds to flood. Select the vertices, double click the paint skin weights tool. Make sure you're on the right joint and flood. Super easy, done deal, perfect. And the eyes move and they look cool.
Can you make them face forward?
These guys, you know, their eyes, they point out to the side like this. So make sure that they can kind of see around all sides of them. Because somebody's going to come up and eat him. He's got to be able to keep his eyes on a swivel. He's going to be shark bait. Yeah. Alright, you can move the shell back down by clicking on the shell joint. And in Y, I'm sorry, should be Z, that's weird. Guess you're just going to have to hand move it because I don't remember the exact placement. Oh, you know what you can do? You can click on any joint and go to skin, go to bind pose. Skin, go to bind pose. Click on any joint and go to skin, go to bind pose, and the joint, the shell will pop back into the exact position where we skinned it. It's a super handy trick. So if you're moving joints all over the place to blend a bunch of stuff, you can always pop it back into its original position. Mm-hmm.
Its smile looks like it's an old man.
And that's really cool. So if you rotate the shell around, it's now more organically connected to the turtle than it was before. The riggers did not, you know what I mean? So you could do some cool stuff now from an animation perspective. Like as he walks or swims around, like that shell could like wobble a little bit. You know what I mean? Now we have eye control. So we can move those eyes around a little bit more. And just give yourself a little bit more, you know. The more stuff, like the more little tools that you give the animators to do their thing, the cooler that they can make their animations. You know, even for something as simple as this, a little rig, you know. All right, you guys. You know what we're going to do? Next time we're going to add some controls to this thing. Save this guy out. File save scene as. Save it as turtle. We're going to wrap class today.